Good morning, children. Today we are going to learn grammar, and in grammar we will be learning figures of speech. Now, this is very important because when I teach you your poem, you have to know these figures of speech so that if you don't know the figures of speech, you will not be able to identify and write the figures of speech. So that's why listen carefully as I explain what a figure of speech is and also the different figures of speech. A figure of speech is a poetic device. Means it's you find a figure of speech only and only in a poem. You will not find them in your normal regular lessons or novels. You will find them only in a poem. Now the reason being why do you find figures of speeches in poems? Because a poem is short, okay, generally not very long. It's made up of just maximum 5 to 10 words on a line maximum, and it's generally a poem is it has rhyming words, and they have some old words which are little difficult, some words that are even the position of the words are also changed. Now the reason they do all this is to make the poem a little exciting, a little more beautiful, a little different compared to just your books that you would read or your passages that you would read your stories. So others there would be no difference between a poem and a passage or a book. The difference is because you have these figures of speeches, and it's not written in just a composition form, it's not written just in a paragraph form, it's written in a particular way using these figures of speech so that the poem looks more exciting, looks more interesting to read, to listen to, and also makes you think, to ponder upon some things like why is this like this. Okay, so now I'm just reading it. You have to write it later on after I finish the whole explanation. You have to write all this in your English grammar notebook. A figure of speech is a poetic device which consists of words and phrases used in such a manner so as to make the meaning more clear and language more effective and beautiful. So, the meaning of the sentence, sometimes you cannot understand. This figure of speech helps you to understand it much better and also makes the language sound much more attractive and beautiful. Now, the first figure of speech is a simile. Now, when you look at the word simile, you can think of the word similar. Yes, with something same. Now, in a simile, you will find a direct comparison is made between two things. But it is very, very important that these two things have to be totally different things. Like, for example, I can compare uh, a boy to be as tall as a coconut tree. Okay, maybe the boy is very, very tall. So I'm saying he is as tall as a coconut tree. Now I'm comparing the boy to the tree, and at the same time I'm using the word as tall as a coconut. So two different, entirely different types of things, that is a human being and a tree, are being compared with the help of the word as. Now there is something similar also between these two things, that they are both tall. What is being compared? Their height, correct? So the similarity is that they are both tall. So in a simile, you will find that there is a direct comparison made between two objects of different things. Yes, and they will have this one thing in common as I just explained. And how is a comparison made? Using the words like as dot dot as if, as though. All these will be used to make a simile. Now, example, see the first example. I wandered lonely as a cloud. Now, here the poet is saying that he was wandering. Wandering means roaming around aimlessly, just moving from one place to another. Okay. Now, how was he roaming? He was roaming with no aim. And the same thing, the cloud was doing the same thing. Yes, so here you are comparing I, that is the poet, to the cloud. and using the word as. And what is similar is that both are wandering. So when you are writing, if I say identify the figure of speech and I give you this sentence, you will write it is a simile, and then the explanation also has to come there. It is a direct comparison made between two things of different kinds with the help of the word as. You can write it like this, or you can also mention what I have written in the bracket. It is a direct comparison made between I and the cloud with the help of the words as. Word as. Clear? Next one. Helen was like a beautiful rose. Now here also Helen is being compared to a rose with the help of the word like. Now what is the similarity? Both are beautiful. Okay, so you can write a direct comparison is made between Helen and a rose using the word like. Next, the simile and the metaphor. We go to the metaphor now. Simile and metaphor are almost the same. If you remember simile, it is very easy to remember metaphor. The reason being, here also you have a comparison. Here also you will have two different things. Here also you will have something common. Only and only difference is that the words that were used to help you to make the comparison will not be used over here. Like, as though, as a will not be used over here. So that is why it is called an implied simile. So it's understood that it's like a simile, but it isn't exactly a simile. Let's look at the first example. Life is but a walking shadow. Now what is you compared here? Life and shadow. Is the word over there is as, like, as? No, but they are telling you that life is a walking shadow. Here that's why your explanation will be an indirect comparison is made between life and shadow. Is it clear? Okay. Now next one. Tanaji was a lion in the battle. This is the second example. Now here also two different things, Tanaji and lion, are being compared to each other. But they are not telling you what is the similarity, correct? But what will a man do in a battle? He will be fighting, and only a brave man will be able to fight. A lion is also supposed to be a courageous animal, not scared of anything. So here the similarity between the lion and Tanaji is that both were brave. They were fighting very bravely in the battle. Now Tanaji was a lion in the battle. There is no use of the word as, like. So your explanation will be an indirect comparison is made between two things, or an indirect comparison is made between Tanaji and lion. Now, if I just make a small change in this, I just want to show you the difference between a simile and a metaphor. Instead of saying Tanaji was a lion, I'll say Tanaji was like a lion. I'll just add one word. Tanaji was like a lion in the battle. What happens? This metaphor changes into a simile because I used the word like. Same thing. The two things being compared are the same. Tanaji and lion are the same. They have the same qualities. Both are brave. Only difference is that I added the word like. I made the comparison with the help of the word like. So the moment you see the word like, as you know, it is a simile. If it's not there and still comparison is made, then it is a metaphor. Okay. Now one point you should remember in this is, here you are I'm very specific that you have to compare two different things. Like maybe like the first example I give you, the boy and the coconut tree. The coconut tree is a plant and the boy is a human being. Here also Tanaji and a lion, a human being and an animal. So the two things being compared should be of different kinds. Now I can just say Anil is taller than Amit. Here also a comparison is being made, and here also they are talking of their height. But both of them, both of them are boys or human beings. They come under the same category. So it is not a simile. The two things being compared have to be from different categories, not the same category. Only then it will be a simile or a metaphor. Now moving on to the next one. That's the third one, personification. Personification, when you're looking at the word personification itself, you find the word person in it, P-E-R-S-O-N. Yes, when you're talking of a person, you're talking of a human being. Now, what is the difference between a human being and others or the other things created by God? Now, we human beings can think, we human beings can laugh, we can talk. There are many things we can feel which many of these other things cannot do. Action, yes. So in this figure of speech, the actions or the thoughts or the abilities that a human being can do, the qualities that a human being have, are given or attributed to a non-living or a non-human thing, that is an inanimate object. Yes, so when it's given to an inanimate object, it is called as a personification, that is human quality or human ability. Now what could be the ability? Maybe dancing, singing, thinking, running, writing, any of these, loving, all these attributes or qualities or abilities of a human being, when they're giving to something that's not just not living, maybe non-living, maybe a stone, but non-human, maybe a bird, an animal, they're living but they're not humans. Okay, a tree, a flower. Okay, just like the first example, the flowers dance merrily in the breeze. Now what are the flowers doing? The action is dancing. Now it is human beings who can dance. Flowers do not dance. They cannot dance, but that's the way we are describing it. Yes, we are giving them human qualities or human ability rather over here of being able to dance. That's why it is a personification, and your explanation will be the same. Flowers which are non-human. Yes, they are not inanimate. They have life. If they have no life, you will say inanimate object. But here they have life. So you will say non-human. Flowers which are non-human are given the ability of dancing. Dancing is a human ability. Second one, I have chased the shouting wind. Here now what is the wind? Whom are you talking about? The wind. Now what is the wind doing? The wind was shouting. So here again, shouting is an ability which a human being can do and not the wind. So we're giving the wind the human ability of being able to shout. Moving on to the next, that is apostrophe. It is a special form of personification. Why? Why is it a special form of personification? Because here also you are talking of some human ability. Now here the human ability you are speaking about is of hearing and understanding. Not any other ability, not of dancing, not of singing, not of thinking, not of loving. Here you are talking of the only ability of being able to hear and understand. Okay, now what is the difference between personification and apostrophe is, in personification you're giving these things that are not living or which are not human, you're giving them the ability of a human being, that is being able to dance, to sing, to think. Yes, well, as in apostrophe, you are not giving them all these abilities, you're just giving them one ability, that is being able to hear and understand. Okay, so when you are talking, say to a chair, when will you talk to the chair? Only and only if the chair can hear you and understand you. So when you're doing that, it is an apostrophe because you are talking to the chair, which is an inanimate object and it cannot hear you, it cannot understand. But still you are treating it as if it were a human being and it had the ability to listen to you and to understand what you are saying. So in an apostrophe, you are giving the ability, or speaking, rather you are speaking to something that is not a human being, a non-human or an inanimate object, that is a non-living object. You are speaking to it as if it were a human being, and it can listen to you and understand what you are saying. Now let's go to the first example. Okay, blow, 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 thou winter wind. Now you are talking to, you are addressing the wind. You're telling it to blow. The winter wind is nice and cool, so you want to feel cool, so you are telling the wind to blow. You're speaking to the wind as if it is listening and as if it can hear you. Now, the second example. Time, you old gypsy man, will you not stay? Now here same thing. Can time listen to you? First of all, tell me, who is a gypsy? A gypsy is a person who moves from one place to another, is never constantly staying in one fixed place. He just moves around. In Hindi, what you say is Banjara. Okay. So here this gypsy man will always be moving from one place to another. The moment he gets a job, he stays over there. He does work. He has no job, he moves on somewhere else. Okay. So here he is calling time a gypsy. Why is he calling time a gypsy? Because does time stay in one place? No, time always moves on. It never goes backward. It always goes ahead. Yes, once time is gone, you will never get it back. So that's why he is telling that, saying that time is like a gypsy. So here, this could also be a metaphor, because you're calling time a gypsy. Okay, comparison between two things. Okay, the indirect comparison. Now let's talk about apostrophe. So here they're talking to time as if he can listen to you and hear you, and as if these are the human qualities that he had. Now one thing to note is that even when you are speaking to God, it is an apostrophe. Like you are praying. Okay, you are saying, oh God, please help me to understand what this teacher is saying. I can't understand, it's just going over my head. You are praying to God, but you cannot see him. He is not there in front of you. You are addressing him as if he can hear you. That's when also this is an apostrophe. Okay, because you cannot see God, but you're still addressing him as if you know that he is sitting in front of you and he is listening to you. The next one, onomatopoeia. Now a easy way to remember this spelling: on, divide the word into parts. On, O, then mat, O, and poia. So if you want to remember the spelling, remember on, then O, on O mat. Remember you are on O mat, and O, and poia. Clear? Okay, what is onomatopoeia? Onomatopoeia is the indication of any sound. Yes, like the car zoomed. So when you say the word zoom, that's a sound that came from the car, or the speed of the car, because of that was made by because of the speed of the car. Okay, she screeched. So the screeching is a sound. The dog barked. Yes, meow. All these are sounds. All these indicate sound. So anything that indicates sound is onomatopoeia. So look at the first example. The horse clapped along the road. So here you're talking of the horse's hooves. Yes, the sound that the horse makes when it walks on the road. That sound makes a clip-clap sound. So that's why that comes under onomatopoeia. The second one, a fleet of planes whirred above our heads. Now a fleet of planes, you're talking of a fleet of planes. The sound that the planes made was the whirring sound, whirring. So here it's telling you of the sound that the planes made. So again it is onomatopoeia. Now what is a pun? The next and the last one is a pun. Pun is when you are using a word with more than one meaning. Like I'll give you an example. If you say fool, in Hindi it means a flower. If I tell someone you are a fool, okay, he may think of the flower. But I actually mean to say FOOL means a very foolish person. So the same word has two meanings. And I mean to make fun of the person, but I'm using a different word, a word which has two meanings. Yeah. So a pun is when a word has more than one meaning. Look at the first sentence. Can a leopard change its spots? Yes, when it moves from one spot to another. Now the first, can a leopard change its spots? You know a leopard has spots. And it's asking, is it possible for a leopard to change its spots? It's not possible. Everyone knows it. But here the answer is yes. When it is possible, when it moves from one spot to another. Now, why do you feel that the leopard can change its spots when it's moving from one spot to another? Reason being that when the leopard walks, to move from one spot to another, it has to walk. When you look at the leopard, you feel that the spots are moving because of the movement of the body of the leopard. Now here the word spot. First spot are the marks on the body of the leopard. The second spot, it means place. So the same word spot has two different meanings. The next example, he is too much of a bear to bear this calmly. Now the first bear, the word bear is repeated, correct? So that means both the bear have different meanings. First bear is the animal, the bear. Now he is too much of a bear. So here you're saying he is like a bear. He has the qualities of a bear. Now what qualities does a bear have? A bear is very restless. A bear has no patience. A bear gets angry very easily. Yes, he's very protective about his area, his things. Yes, he will attack anyone for no reason. He is never calm. Yes, so that's what he is trying to say in the second part. To bear this calmly. Now the second bear is to be able to tolerate. Sabar karna, what you say in Hindi. Yes, so he is such a restless, such an angry person. He is not intolerable person that he is not going to tolerate anything from anybody, and he is surely going to make a big noise if he feels he is in danger, or if he is being hurt or disturbed in any way. He is going to start behaving like a bear and start attacking everybody. Okay, so here the bear has two meanings. One is the animal, the bear, and the second is to tolerate. Yes. So I hope you all have understood everything. If there's anything you all have not understood, you can message me on my personal WhatsApp. And since I have taught you all most of this last year, you all should be able to do it quite easily. Now I'm not giving you all any homework till I complete all the figures of speech, and I will be also revising the old ones again. See that as a homework. I'm not giving you all an exercise, but as a homework, whatever is on this video, I want you all to write it down in your grammar notebook. You all will write it as figures of speech along with the examples. Clear? And if you have any doubt, you can message me on my WhatsApp. Thank you.